The U.S. military says it has substantially beefed up its presence in the Indo-Pacific region, which includes the South China Sea. With the deployment of a pair of MQ-4C Tridon unmanned aircraft systems, the aircraft can operate at more than 15,000 meters, 50,000 feet, and have a range of more than 3,700 kilometers, 2,000 nautical miles, providing unmatched high-altitude persistent intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance (ISR) capability, the U.S. 7th Fleet said in a statement from Andersen Air Force Base in Guam. Bringing Tridon forward creates a complex problem set for our adversaries, said Commander Michael Minervini, commanding officer of the unit operating the aircraft about a year later than initially expected. The first two MQ-4C Tridon unmanned aircraft arrived in Guam over the weekend, marking a significant step toward increasing the Navy's Western Pacific reconnaissance and surveillance capability, the service announced this weekend. The two Tritons are part of an early operational capability being run by Unmanned Patrol Squadron, BUP-19, which is flying and maintaining the aircraft from Andersen Air Force Base in Guam. BUP-19 is developing the concept for incorporating the high-altitude, long-endurance system into the maritime domain and augmenting the Navy's current reconnaissance and surveillance operations with manned aircraft. The inaugural deployment of Tridon UAS brings enhanced capabilities and a broad increase in maritime domain awareness to our forward fleet commanders, Rear ADM Peter Garvin, the commander of Patrol and Reconnaissance Group, said in a Navy statement. BUP-19, the Navy's first dedicated UAS squadron supported by an outstanding NAVAR, Naval Air Systems Command, and industry team, is superbly trained and ready to provide the persistent ISR coverage the Navy needs. The Navy expects initial operational capability, IOC, for the program in 2021. In December, the Navy awarded Northrop Grumman a $251.6 million contract modification to build 3 more low-rate initial production MQ-4 Tritons. The Tritons are designed to combine a series of electro-optical sensors and radar to track maritime targets from as high as 60,000 feet over the ocean and compare tracks to automated identification systems, AIS, on ships, according to the Navy. The plan is for a Tridon to relay the information back to a main operating base in the U.S. or to nearby P-8A Poseidon anti-submarine warfare manned aircraft. The Tritons in Guam are operating under the Under-Commander of Task Force, CDF-72, the lead for patrol, reconnaissance and surveillance forces in U.S. 7th Fleet. The introduction of MQ-4C Tridon to the 7th Fleet area of operations expands the reach of the U.S. Navy's Maritime Patrol and Reconnaissance Force in the Western Pacific, Captain Matt Rutherford, the commander of CDF-72, said in the statement, coupling the capabilities of the MQ-4C with the proven performance of P-8, P-3 and EP-3 will enable improved maritime domain awareness in support of regional and national security objectives. The investigation found that the Tridon had an issue during flight operations and was told by operators to come back to the base. While heading in for a landing, though, the engine was shut down but the landing gear did not extend, resulting in a belly landing. There were no injuries or collateral damage reported, but the damage to the Tridon was estimated at more than $2 million, the threshold for a Class A flight mishap, according to the Navy. The Navy and the aircraft manufacturer Northrop Grumman spent years testing and evaluating the Tritons before flying them to Guam. This significant milestone marks the culmination of years of hard work by the joint team to prepare Tridon for overseas operations, Captain Dan Mackin, the manager of NAVAR's Persistent Maritime UAS Program Office, said in a statement. The fielding of the Navy's premier unmanned aircraft system and its additive, persistent, Multi-sensor data collection and real-time dissemination capability will revolutionize the way maritime intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance is performed. China is now capable of controlling the South China Sea in all scenarios short of war with the US. The military is not adverse to using hyperbole and scare tactics to squeeze a few extra dollars out of Congress, of course, but in this case there are real signs that power in the region is shifting to Beijing. Geopolitical analysts have long feared that the battle between the US and China for strategic military and economic supremacy in the South China Sea, as well as multiple disputes over territory and sovereignty, China, the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia and Taiwan all lay claim to the Spratly Islands, for example, will escalate beyond political posturing and into direct military action. Recently, the situation has become ominous. In March, China sent a 40-ship flotilla, including its only native-built aircraft carrier, the Liaoning, to the South China Sea. The following month, reports came out that Beijing had installed electronic jamming equipment on 2 of its outposts in the Spratly Islands despite President Xi Jinping's assurances in 2015 that he would never seek to militarize the islands. China now operates 3 10,000-feet runways there, in addition to aircraft hangars, bunkers, military housing and deep water piers for ships. Located at the crux of where the Pacific and Indian Oceans meet, the South China Sea is one of the most hotly contested geopolitical regions on Earth. A critical thoroughfare for the global economy. Nearly a third of all maritime trade, worth a staggering $5.3 trillion last year, passes through it. Beijing has drawn a so-called 9-dash line over the South China Sea, a territorial claim stretching 200 miles south and east from the province of Hainan, backed by island building and naval patrols. The line would theoretically give China control over a zone that caters for almost 40% of the global trade in liquefied natural gas, one that is home to an estimated 11 billion barrels of oil and 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. The US challenged Chinese hegemony by sailing a destroyer within 12 nautical miles of the artificial islands, the first in a series of actions planned to assert freedom of navigation. The following July, in a case brought by the Philippines, an arbitral tribunal ruled China has no legal basis to claim historic rights within its 9-dash line, a decision rejected by Taiwan and Beijing. Speaking at the Shangri-La Dialogue Security Conference on June 2nd, US Defense Secretary Jim Mattis spoke out against China's strategy of intimidation and coercion in the region, including the deployment of anti-ship missiles, surface-to-air missiles, electronic jammers, and, more recently, the landing of nuclear-capable bombers at Woody Island. While China is winning its de facto control of nearly the entire South China Sea, including all activities and resources in it, despite the other surrounding Southeast Asian states' respective legal rights and entitlements under international law, Jay Bertongbuckle, director of the University of the Philippines Institute for Maritime Affairs and Law of the Sea, told Nikkei Asian Review. In response, the US has decided to step up its intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance (ISR) capabilities in the region, beginning with the deployment of $180 MQ-4C Triton drones built by Northrop Grumman and based on the MQ-4 Global Hawk platform used by the US Air Force. The high-altitude, long-range MQ-4C Triton platform has a wingspan of 131 feet, weighs 14,628 kilograms, and is installed with 360-degree electro-optical sensors capable of tracking maritime targets from 60,000 feet. The MQ-4C Triton incorporates a reinforced airframe and wing, de-icing and lighting protection systems and sophisticated sensor suites, allowing the platform to track ships over vast distances. During surveillance missions using Triton, Navy operators may spot a target of interest and order the aircraft to a lower altitude to make positive identification, stated Mike McKee, Northrop Grumman's Tridon UAS program director. The wing strength allows the aircraft to safely descend, sometimes through weather patterns, to complete this maneuver.